Hi, welcome to the series of International Communication and East Asian Affairs, Current Political and Economic Conditions. In the second class, we are going to talk about the political economy of China. This course is lectured by Professor Han Putong, who is currently the professor at the Department of Political Science in National Taiwan University. In this class, he will introduce us to the functions of different institutions under authoritarianism and how China's political economy works under Xi and why it all matters. Along with the abundant knowledge he is going to bring us about China's political economy. Let's start with this fascinating class right away.
My name is Han Putong. I graduated from Harvard University in 2012 and now a professor of political science at National Taiwan University. And it's a great pleasure to be here to talk about an interesting topic about political economy of China to you. And we'll spend about an hour on this topic explaining the changes Xi Jingping has brought to China. So first of all, let me give you an introduction. So what's today's lecture about? First of all, I'm going to talk about what has happened to China's political economy after Xi Jingping. And then I'm going to move to the institutions under dictatorships and why they matter. I'm going to talk about China's political economy during the reform era, in other words, before Xi Jingping came to power. And then I'm going to also explain what has Xi Jingping done to China. And then finally, explain to you potential international implications of Xi's political maneuvering. So let me contextualize today's lecture in its broader setting. So in other words, we are now experiencing interesting changes in democracy and also global liberal order. So first of all, you might have heard about this before, the concept of end of history coined by another important political scientist, Francis Fukuyama. But then now it seems that we are facing a new era, and then we might want to mention this concept as the end of history. So in other words, while democracy has been in triumph since the end of history, in other words, the late 1990s or 80s, but now we are now seeing a new trend, and a lot of countries are experiencing democratic recession, and also in quite a few different places, we also see the rise of authoritarianism. And countries, for example, like Poland, Czech, and also Hungary, they also the political developments in these countries also show the rise of authoritarianism, and therefore, it seems that we are now entering a new age, and we do need to understand, the reason behind it, and also the dynamics. And also, it's not just about the political developments. There are also economic implications of this. So one thing that strikes as a very important feature is the end of reciprocity. And since now we have been experiencing globalization for almost like a couple of decades, it's interesting to see that this core concept, reciprocity, now seems to be in danger. So there are a couple of important signs. So first of all, we have seen the rise of preferential trade agreements and the decline of WTO. Well, WTO is important, or the major international organization promoting globalization, is very important in promoting the value of non-discrimination against all the countries. But the very important feature of the preferential trade agreement is that there are only a couple of countries that might be included in these agreements, and therefore other countries might be excluded. And this is actually against the principle of universality in the WTO. And second, on the more political side, we have also seen Brexit. In other words, the Great Britain decided to exit from European Union, and also the rise of lots of nationalist leaders in Europe. And this is apparently against the current we have witnessed in the past. So in other words, welcome global citizenship and also encouraging the flow of people across the globe. But now it seems that these nationalist leaders are trying to rebuild the borders of their countries and have less welcome attitudes towards immigration. And finally, there is also an interesting trend, which is the rise of the anti-establishment sentiment. And mostly due to distributional conflicts. And also Trump's America First doctrine. Of course, Trump is no longer the American president, but he has had actually left an important legacy in American politics. And one thing that I want to mention here is that this rise of the anti-establishment sentiment could be due to the unequal distribution of benefits from globalization. And therefore, people who have benefited a lot from globalization, they are the winners of this, while on the other side, you have those who are the losers of this. And therefore, the conflicts between them, this is now the major factor giving rise to not just nationalist leaders like those in Europe, but also like populist leader in the United States like Trump. And finally, we also have to think about this in a broader context. In other words, the China factor, which is, of course, the main focus today. So China has maintained its authoritarian government even since the late 1980s when they kick off their economic reform. So the thing is, it seems that they offer an alternative model of growth and prosperity, because before China's rise, people tend to believe if you want to have a prosperous country in the economic sense, you also, in other words, if you have market economy, you also have to have political democracy. So in other words, political democracy and economic market as a model, they go in tandem, they go hand in hand. But China's rise seems to give us a somewhat different lesson, because in China there isn't a democratic government, but while they have, at least before a couple of years ago, have a sustained economic growth rates at 2-digit, and therefore it gave us a challenge to explain why. And that's also the important context for today, because for today I'm going to explain the political economy of China. And if you put this in a larger context of democracy and globalization, global leader order in crisis, then you'll be able to understand the important implication of this new development. And then that's also quickly summarize some of the important developments in China's rise. And it's not just the rise of its hard power, but also its soft power. And also, it seems to give rise to a China model as opposed to the Western model. So some simple facts about China's rise here. So first, now China obviously is the largest foreign holder of U.S. Treasury securities. And then second, it also overtook Japan in 2011 to be the second largest economy in the world. And third, it also overtook Germany in 2010 to be the largest exporter in the world. And finally, of course, they also have expedited their military modernization, and they have their first aircraft carrier, Liaoning. So these are some simple facts about its rise. But as I said, on the soft power side, you can also see expansion of Confucius institutes, despite, of course, some recent setbacks in some Western countries. But this is an important symbol for their rise in soft power and how they can actually disseminate their cultural values across the globe. And second, they also adopt this interesting policy as opposed to the Western model, what we call the no string attached to foreign aid. So in other words, after China became a rich country, they also started to giving aid to other developing countries. But they use a very different model, because in the West, they tend to attach some conditions to the aid. So in other words, if you want to receive the aid, you have to adopt some reforms in your political system or economic system. But in the Chinese case, they have done something else. In other words, they never ask anything to be attached to the aid. So in other words, whether it's a dictatorships or whether it's a democracy, once you receive aid from China, they won't actually ask other things. And third, this is obviously what Xi Jingping has brought to the table, this Belt and Road Initiative. And this is, of course, an ongoing process. And also, as some people criticized, these initiatives might actually bring debts to those countries that receive the aid. But it shows the ambition of Xi Jingping and also China's to become a world power that can be compatible with the United States. So I think for the global growth and also for the growth in Asian region, it's very important to understand whether this China model can be sustainable. So, of course, there are lots of things we can talk about today, but what I want to focus today is the foundational condition for this to happen. So in other words, there has to be some political conditions to be met for China's growth to be possible. And so I'm going to talk to you about what these foundations were during the reform era and what Xi Jinping has brought changes to these conditions. So to kick us off, so let's just first of all mention this interesting and important fact back to 2018. So Xi Jinping's recent move. So on March 11th, 2018, China's National People's Congress, they passed a constitutional amendment abolishing the nation's presidential two-term limit. But let me first of all give you an important conceptual background. So in China, their top leaders, they after Deng Xiaoping, in other words, for Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and Xi Jinping now, they all assume three important positions, and this is sometimes what we call the Chinese Trinity. So the first one is the president of the country, and the second position is the general secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and the third is the chairman of the CCP Military Commission. So since Jiang Zemin, all these presidents, all these leaders in China, they would subsume all these three positions under their control. But as a matter of fact, as far as the first position, the president is concerned, in their constitution, they used to have a limit on how long you can serve. And so that's the two-term limit here. And so that's why for Xi Jinping, for Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, each of them served only for 10 years, right? So for example, like Hu Jintao, he became the president in 2002 and then stepped down in 2012. So that had been the convention in Chinese politics, but Xi Jinping, lifted that restraint on the term limit in 2018, and so for today, I think for the following lectures, I'm going to give you first of all an important lesson about why this happened, and also is that just about Xi Jinping's personal ambition, or Xi Jinping is going to pursue the president for life. So this is the important starting point for our lecture today.